Earlier this week, Chuck Todd got in a bit of trouble online when he referred to Bernie Sanders supporters in an incredibly derogatory sense. And he was criticized a lot as a result of that. And I think that he is making an effort to be more understanding of Bernie Sanders, more diplomatic in the way he talks about them. And I think that that really comes through in this clip.
Who's the front runner, right?
The guy who's winning delegates.
But is he the front runner? He's certainly not getting the press of the front runner. And the problem is,
I don't understand how Bernie is considered a front runner. This is a guy that had more people showed up to the polls, highest turnout ever, and his percentage went down, not up.
Yeah.
His total number went down, not up.
And new voters actually voted for Buttigieg and Klobuchar.
Okay, yeah, and young voters voted for Bernie more than literally all of the other candidates combined. But so we had his numbers go down. We'll get to that. First of all, he was aghast at the idea that Bernie was not the front runner, but a front runner. Chuck Todd does not believe that Bernie Sanders is a front runner.
Yeah,
that seems amazing.
No, we live in two different worlds. We really do. And I know some good folks who just believe in their core of cores that Bernie Sanders cannot possibly win because they're stuck in the old days. In the old days, like, oh, socialist, I'm done with the conversation and I'm moving on with my life. And that's because we know in 1963, we used to hide under our desks when we thought we were going to go to a nuclear war with the Soviet Union and those are the communists. But they can't get it out of their heads. But look, that's what happens actually to folks when they're taught something when they're young, and especially when it's repeated and repeated and repeated. So it's so hard to get that propaganda out of people's heads. So by the way, though, that is also a reality in terms of trying to win over voters. But luckily, the numbers are in. We don't have to guess at it. So independents support Bernie Sanders more than any other candidate, and Bernie beats Trump by the biggest margin of any of the candidates. And now he has a double-digit lead nationally among Democrats. So when Biden was ahead nationally for a full year, but he started slipping in New Hampshire and Iowa, they said, no, it's okay, Biden's still the front runner because he's leading nationally. Now Bernie in two different polls has a 10-point lead nationally. They're like, nope, that standard is old. He's not the front runner. We don't care how much our lying eyes tell us he wins over independents, which is what you need to win the election. We don't believe in numbers. We have alternative facts, alternative numbers.
See, I think even like, so Biden is leading forever in the national polls. He starts to go down in Iowa and New Hampshire, but he doesn't really seem to mind that he still at that point earlier was doing well in the states that he expected to do well in. I think at that point, it is perfectly fine to call him a front runner. He was still leading in the national polls. But now Bernie Sanders won both the states, got the most votes in both the states, and is doing best in the national polls and has raised the most money. Like if the word front runner is supposed to mean anything, I'm not saying that you think he's gonna win the primary or he's going to win against Donald Trump, but he is in the front, in the running, he's at the front, thus the front runner. Those words don't mean anything if they don't apply to Bernie. It doesn't mean he's the only front runner. You can say that there are front runners. He is the front runner. Maybe Pete Buttigieg is doing really well, Biden's still okay in the national polling. A case can be made, but there is no case to be made that he isn't a front runner.
Yeah, well, that's 100% true. But when you won New Hampshire and Iowa and you have a 10-point lead nationally, you are the front runner.
Like, he's the front runner.
It's not close. And by the way, go back and watch old Young Turks videos. I would tell you that, hey, I think Biden's lead is going to erode, but he's currently the front runner. Because facts matter and numbers matter. And we told you that 1,000 times. Biden's leading in the national polls. We'd say, hey, here comes Bernie. He's catching him in Nevada. He's catching him in Iowa, et cetera. We told you when Warren took the lead. We told you when Buttigieg took the lead in Iowa briefly, et cetera. We tell you on election nights, hey, you know what? Buttigieg is closing in. It's getting closer than we expected. Because we actually care about things called reality, okay? But when they see reality, they're so biased they can't see straight. They're like, oh, he's got a 10-point lead. That's why the person who's in third is what's most important. And a literal thing said on MSNBC a couple of days ago, it's not important who wins, it's important who comes in third. We should remember that in November because who won the election last time? Was it Gary Johnson or Jill Stein?
Gary Johnson had the third most votes.
Oh, well, that's probably why he's president now, right?
Exactly. Well, he's not president, but it is a stronger showing. So, like hypothetically, if we could have Chuck Todd here, How would he respond to us pointing out these things, do you think? I mean, you know more of these media people. Like, is he being dense? Is he being dishonest? When he says the word frontrunner, what does he actually mean?
Look, I know some folks have bad intent. So when MSNBC brings on Wall Street people and Democratic donors and Democratic consultants and they have a vested interest, they are basically trying to deceive you on purpose. So when you see a Jim Messina, for example, he has a ton of corporate clients who he is worried would be heard, and they're worried they would be heard in a progressive administration where we would actually serve the American people and not just the corporate donors. So when Messina comes in, his job is to deceive you and to do propaganda. He doesn't mean a word of it, right? So there is that second category. Believe it or not, and maybe I'm wrong about this, and maybe I'm still naive about it to this day, but I believe that people like Chuck Todd who are on TV are not, like, they don't get together in a room and like, let's screw over Bernie, right?
Yeah, I agree. I don't think that actually happens.
Although sometimes we have seen the press be intentionally malicious, but I think that he has a series of excuses and they're on a loop, they're endless. If you work through every one of the excuses, which you won't be able to because they just literally, like, you will tell someone who believes these things, Bernie has the biggest lead with independents, and they'll go, no, I don't believe that. They literally say, you'll show them the poll and they'll be like, yeah, but I think that's misleading. Like, you can show them 7 polls in a row and they're like, they're all misleading, they're all outliers. But then they'll get to their second layer of excuses like, well, he's leading for now, but that's name recognition. I don't remember you saying that about Hillary Clinton, right? But it's a name recognition and it'll go down.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay, the lead will go down. I don't remember you saying that about Biden. And besides, you did say it about Bernie and it didn't go down. He did win Iowa, he did win New Hampshire, and his lead is going up, not down. But it's built in, they have one after, it's like fundamentalist religious people, right? There's nothing you could tell them that they wouldn't come up with a God works in mysterious ways.
Yeah.
Right? So they're like, establishment works in mysterious ways. Bernie will lose no matter what. You can show me, he could win the election and they'd still be like, did he?
Misleading.
Did he? I mean, he won the Electoral College and the popular vote by a lot, but did he? Right.
Yeah, and just bear in mind that Chuck Todd is going to be one of the moderators at the upcoming debate. And look, we found out, that he thinks earlier this week that he thinks that we're digital brown shirts if you support him. Now he says, no, he's not one of the front runners. The only silver lining to all this is there's no reason for Chuck Todd to go viciously after Bernie Sanders at this debate because he's not even one of the front runners. Why spend your time on him, Chuck?
Yeah. And here's another magic excuse they have. They say, well, he's leading now, but he hasn't been attacked enough. Like, swear to God, one of the top things that they say, Bernie Sanders has not been attacked enough. But they genuinely believe it. They're like, we barely touched him. We only did 1,000 negative pieces. If we do 7,000 on behalf of the Republican Party and the corporate Democrats, maybe we'll get him. Meanwhile, women and people overall, but I remember this particular woman we showed you guys, are telling MSNBC anchors, oh, I voted for Bernie because you keep attacking him.
Yeah.
Like, so it's counter-effective, just like with Trump, by the way. And they're like, nope, we're gonna get him. If we're just negative enough against him, we'll drive down his numbers and we'll say, oh, did you know he's against fracking? Oh, that's gonna hurt him in the Midwest. It's gonna hurt him in the winter. If we keep saying all these things over and over again, it's gonna hurt him. And the last thing, guys, to go back to what he said in the beginning, Chuck Todd did, saying, well, look, his percentage in New Hampshire went down, not up. Look, if you don't at least qualify that sentence, I mean, it's hack 101, and then they'll get really offended. They're like, what? I was trying to do propaganda against Bernie Sanders to make sure that he would lose, and now you're calling me a hack? I'm so offended.
I don't understand what you're talking about. His numbers did go down.
Okay, so there was one person running against him last time. This time there were 9 people running against him. Chuck, you might want to finish that thought at least. You wouldn't want to deceive your audience, would you? MSNBC not deceiving their audience. Okay, and by the way, do you know politics at all? You're the host of Meet the Press. You're the political director of NBC. You don't know that a person, no matter how popular they are, is not going to get the same number of votes when there's 10 people in the race as when there's 2 people in the race? You don't know that? Come on. And if the situation is reverse, you think they'd be like, well, no, technically, like Hillary Clinton did win Iowa, but her numbers went down. I don't remember any of that ever.
So he's met the press. Has he like talked to them? Has he learned anything from them? Like you should absorb something.
And I get so
Anyways,
John,
it's so frustrating.
now that you said that, I get one last thing. Look, I know for a fact that those media figures are seeing what we're doing on social media. I don't mean just Young Turks videos, just Twitter, etc. Right? And they are deeply wounded. They like when you criticize them even 1%, they're like, oh my God. That's why he said digital brown shirts. Like they're like, oh my God, because you know why? There's something called, well, I made it up, let's be honest, okay? But I like it, elite privilege. I'm allowed to attack you 1,000 times, but you're never allowed to even object to my attacks, let alone its counterattack. And if you do it once, rude, mob, brown shirt, right? But they genuinely believe it. They think, like, wow, I'm not attacking you, I just punched you in the face 7 times.
I just called you a Nazi.
Yeah, what do you mean? No. But you said something, you called me a hack? Oh, these monsters. These monsters, can you believe that? And they have this like little circle, I'll leave it at that, where they're talking to one another and they all like get in a room, and this does actually happen. And they're like, oh my, they're all terrible, right? I mean, oh my, they once criticized me.
That happened on the panel, basically.
Yeah, did they once criticize you? Oh, I knew it. How dare they? Why won't they know their role?
Yeah.
Our job is to criticize them viciously and get away with it. And their job is to sit there and take it, but they won't do what they're told.
Yeah.
And that's what we're seeing right now. Thanks for watching the Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.